Hello, it's Bishop Mark. Today is Luke chapter 12, verses 35 to 40. Now, the whole section that we're entering is 35 to 48, but that's too much for us today. So we'll stop at 40. Now, the context is the last reading we just read, where Jesus tells us what not to worry about, right? Don't worry about what you're going to say. Don't worry what you're going to eat. Don't worry. God is with you. Well, today, Jesus begins a section where he tells us what to worry about. Don't worry about that. Worry about this that he's talking about today, which is what? Those are the missing out on the things of God. So, one thing that Jesus was preaching was the second coming. What's the second coming? Well, Jesus clearly indicated that Christ, he would die and rise from the dead, and then after he ascended to heaven, he would come again someday. And we need to be ready for that. The apostles and the disciples thought that would be during their lifetimes, but it wasn't. In fact, it still hasn't happened. But we need to still be ready for the second coming of Christ. The other thing we need to be ready for is that God will come into our life in a new way, that God will ask us to do something, that God will want a deeper relationship with you and me. We need to be ready for that, alert for it, awake for it. Don't fall asleep spiritually. Be awake, be alert, be ready for God. That's the message. So he begins it this way. Gird your loins and light your lamps, and be like servants who await their master's return from a wedding, ready to open immediately when he comes and knocks. So what does gird your loins mean? It means like put the proper clothes on. Be ready for work. They weren't wearing pants. They were wearing robes. So to do the work, they would kind of pull them up and tie them up so that their legs could be more free. It's called girding your loins. And it brings back something from the Old Testament when that beautiful thing happened. It's called Passover, where God saved the Jewish people from the Egyptians. They were to be ready and with their loins girt. So ready to run, ready to work is what that means. And light your lamps and be like servants awaiting their masters. So let's say there was a rich man. He had a bunch of servants. Their job was to serve him. And he was away at a wedding, but they knew he was coming back at night. So they were waiting up for him. So they have to have their lamps ready. Those are oil lamps with a wick and a flame. So you have to tend to those. You can't just let them go like a candle. You have to tend to them. So they have to be ready. They have to be up. And when the master comes, they say, oh, here you are. So be like that. Be ready. You don't know when he's going to come. Blessed are those servants whom the master finds vigilant on his arrival. So we're not talking about that rich man. We're talking about Jesus coming again, or Jesus coming into our life. And blessed are we if we're ready when that happens. So he's using a parable to tell a bigger story about you and me. Be ready. Amen, I say to you, he will gird himself, have them recline at table, and proceed to wait on them. See what Jesus is doing here? He's telling this story about the rich man, and he's so happy that the servants are ready for him that he says, be seated, be seated. Then he prepares himself, he girds his own loins, and then he waits on them. So if we're ready for God, God will serve us. He will be ready for us. God will help us. So we need to be ready for God. Okay. And should he come in the second or third watch and find them prepared in this way, blessed are those servants. So in other words, the man for the wedding could be delayed, But God could wait a while before he comes powerfully into your life. You have to be ready anyway. And obviously the second coming's taking a while, isn't it? We have to be ready. So even if it's late in the night, they should be ready. And if it's going to be a long time for us to wait, we should be ready. Okay, that's the first story. Now he switches. So it follows along, but it's a different story. Here we go. Be sure of this. If the master of the house had known the hour when the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be prepared for an hour you do not expect. The Son of Man will come. So he tells a different story. There's a guy who has a house, and he's robbed. Now, if he knew exactly when the robber would come, he would not have let himself be robbed. But he doesn't know that. So he has to be alert, be ready, have an alarm. We do not know when Christ is coming. And he says it right there in that last verse. An hour you do not expect, the Son of Man will come. Now we've said many times, the Son of Man is Jesus, right? So, be worried about that, about missing Christ coming into your life. Now, as I said, this section continues the next time, so we'll continue that then, and we'll see how we need to be alert. We need to be awake spiritually. Peace to you.